Last November, voters in Michigan's 14th congressional district elected Southfield Mayor Brenda Lawrence to fill the seat being vacated by Gary Peters. She made history as the first African-American woman to represent Oakland County in Washington, D.C. And now the freshman Congresswoman has been appointed to serve in a leadership role as senior whip. I'm very pleased to have Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence today as my guest. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Yes.
You're not a stranger to American Black Journal. So tell me, let's start. The difference between being mayor and congressperson, those are not the same job, obviously, but,
no,
but to walk me through the sort of practical differences just in your mindset in terms of what your job is and how you get it done.
The legislative part of being in Congress is intense. There's a lot of laws. I can tell you, Stephen, from voting on funding of Homeland Security, human trafficking, and then to receive a letter from the president asking for authorization to use military force.
Yeah, right.
That is a very sobering and really a clear definition of all the different issues. I have been assigned as ranking member of the Oversight Committee on Interior. So EPA, fresh waters, tribal lands, the Food and Drug Administration, those are my responsibilities for the country.
Right.
And
it's a long way from ordinances and things like that in the mayor's office, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think for a lot of people who look at Washington from the outside, it seems like an incredibly gridlocked place where you've got people on both sides of the aisle really entrenched and not working together. I've known enough people in Congress, though, to know that it does look a little different from the inside, and that the relationship building that goes on is a little more friendly, perhaps, or certainly more congenial than
I will tell you, that was probably my biggest aha moment, is that some of the Republicans, if you watch Fox News and you watch TV, you think they're evil with tails and horns, but they're really good people, people that have families, people who are nice. I can tell you, one of those moments was with Congressman Ryan. And
Congressman Paul Ryan from Wisconsin.
Paul Ryan. And you know, he is the face of the Republican Party. And during the new members orientation was very kind and embracing to my family. And he didn't even know it was my family.
Right.
And he and I have now able to talk and you know, I kind of tease him a little bit. Candace Miller is just a fabulous person, just period. I just think the world of her. I think Michigan is losing a really good representative when she leaves. But it's interesting how we're so separated. We're separated in seating. When we're in committees, they're on one side, we're on the other side. After your last vote, you're going home to be in your district. So the opportunity to really network and build those relationships are a little challenging, but I'm committed to doing that. Candace Miller and I signed a bill together to work on that new technology infrastructure where technology will allow the road to talk to your car. That's something we can agree on. There's so many things we agree with, and I'm working hard to make that happen.
I'm curious, you mentioned Candace Miller. How closely do you work with the other members of the Michigan delegation? I mean, that's been an issue in the past. Getting them to meet, getting them to have an agenda that is just about Michigan to sort of forward to the other representatives in the chamber. Is that working again?
It's working. We actually had our first meeting where we met and we agree on water, first protecting our water. We agree on transportation. We agree on protecting our military bases because there are jobs here in Michigan. So it was a good meeting. It was good to have the Republicans and Democrats, and we have such senior leadership in our delegation, having the dean and Mr. Upton and others. And so we have an opportunity, and I was enlightened and kind of and proud of the fact that we sat at the table and we had so many things we agreed upon.
So I mentioned in the open you have been named senior whip. I know what that means. You know what that means, but I'm not sure most people watching would know what that office entails. So explain what that job is.
I was so excited when the Democratic whip, Steny Hoyer, called and asked if I would serve as a senior whip. So senior whip, you sit at the table. You are the the brain trust of the Democratic Party, where you sit together and you debate and talk about issues that are happening, and how does the Democratic Party, how we're going to shape that message, how we're going to support it, how we're going to get that message out there and bring people, and what are the opposition within the party and within our communities across the country, so that we can be in tune with those issues that are important to America.
Right. And then there's the sort of practical end of it, which is the whips are supposed to get the votes in line to make sure that you have enough.
So
right?
as a senior whip, I'm the one that has that one-on-one conversation.
That's right.
You know, I sit down with you
Congressman,
one-on-one.
Here's what I need you to do.
That's right. You know, how can we bring you there? What are the oppositions? So
right.
I'm excited about that.
And that's a really big responsibility. It's unusual for a first-term member to be put in that role, right?
You know, and I asked the congressman, I said, I would be honored to have the position. You do know I'm a freshman.
Right.
But he said, your political path to get here, being a mayor, being involved, being in leadership with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, has positioned you to have that wide perspective that a lot of people don't have, that on the ground, what's happening in our communities, and that's a voice that I need on my team, and so that's why I was chosen. So I'm happy.
Yeah, no, that's a very important honor.
Yeah.
I know, of course, you're a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, of which John Conyers, who is the Dean of the House, is also, of course, the Dean of that caucus. Talk to me about some of the things that have come up in those meetings this year. What are the issues that are on that caucus's agenda this term?
Well, I tell you, the Ferguson issue and the Department of Justice report, there has been a lot of focus. The Voting Rights Act, that is a high priority. And also human trafficking, the education bill, funding of historically black colleges, it's under attack, and that's something that's a priority. So we have a full agenda, and that employment, the community college piece is extremely important.
Right.
So those are the things that we're really, those are our priorities right now that we're working on.
And those are all issues that it's going to be real tough in a Congress that is so heavily Republican to sort of keep out there. I'm curious, you know. I'm under the impression, I think a lot of people are under the impression, that the attitude toward this president and the disrespect that's sent his way is unusual.
It's unprecedented.
Right.
It is.
I wonder how that looks, and a lot of it comes from members of Congress. I mean, we've seen people during the State of the Union, you know, start shouting and things that you would not have seen before. I wonder what that looks like, though, from inside the Congress. When people on the Republican side talk to you about the president, how does that conversation go?
I'm on the Oversight Reform Government Committee, and I can tell you, it is frustrating because we're looking at right now, we're investigating the failure of our Secret Service to protect the White House and our president.
Absolutely.
And we are talking about that, trying to find out what the problems are. And you'll have a member just shout out, well, it's because of the leadership of the President Obama.
Oh, really? They'll say that in committee meetings?
And we, you know, it gets to the point where it's so ridiculous and so unconnected to the issue at hand. And, you know, I have to use my voice and say this issue that we need to focus on to fix this is regardless of if it's a Republican president or it's a Democratic president. And let's get back on point. And the agenda of, and you can see it clearly being played out. Everything is to make sure that this president, there was a vow made, and I see it
that he fails.
That he fails. And I can see it being played out. But I'm so proud. The Democrats, we stuck and we fought hard. That Homeland Security funding budget, we had to fight strategically because they tried to integrate and put poison pills in to not fund the simple security of our country.
Safe, sure.
And we were able to win. And it comes a point where you have to stay focused and move beyond that agenda
Yeah.
And there are people on the other side that really want to take care of this country. But we have to be the face and the conscience of America and say, move beyond that agenda and let's get to work. And we were able to move people to the center to the point that we needed to fund it. And that was a great night on the floor.
Yeah.
I can tell you, being a congresswoman.
Yeah. I want to ask you quickly about the speech that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, was invited to make
Yes.
in Congress. You did not agree with the way that invitation was made.
Not at all.
But you went to the speech.
Yes.
And I'm curious what your reaction was to the speech. Did it change your mind at all about the negotiations with Iran?
No, it did not. I'm clearly in support of a two-state solution. I'm clearly supportive of sanctions and negotiating. And I'm clearly supportive of the president having that responsibility. Right. I made it clear and put a press release out that I was so disappointed in the leadership.
In the way they did it.
And the way, and then the letter that they wrote later was just ridiculous. It was so, and some people say it borders on treason. But the thing that I have a very large Jewish constituency.
In the 14th district,
In the 14th, I have the largest Jewish contingency in Michigan. And they wanted me to hear what he had to say. There was parts of his speech that I applauded because the United States and Israel, we are allies.
Right.
We are supportive of their safety. They are very important to us. I applaud that. But there were points in that speech where he was totally off point.
Yeah.
I did not applaud and I did not stand.
Did you feel like the speech itself was disrespectful to the president, or just the fact that he was giving
He
it?
started the speech, no, because he started applauding the president.
Right.
He did the right thing. He did acknowledge that our president has been a very supportive and an ally. I didn't quite get what his point was because he didn't say anything new.
Yeah.
He did not bring any revelation. To me, it was just a total...
Maybe a finger in the eye to the president?
It played to the agenda of saying we're going to disrespect our president.
Yeah, yeah.
And I made that clear that I did not see the value of the speech. We just had the president of Afghanistan speak.
Right.
And I was so impressed with his focus on women, Afghanistan.
Right, right.
And he actually said from his own mouth, his own words were, I can see one day us having a woman as a president.
As president of Afghanistan.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Did I stand up and applaud that?
So foreign leaders come all the time. It's just a question of
yes.
how they do it.
Yes.
Okay. Brenda Lawrence, Congresswoman from the 14th District, thank you very much for being here. We'll have to have you back and talk more about your district.
Yes, and I'm so excited to serve the people.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.